I'm really excited for our first event of 2021. We're happy to be back in the new year. So let's kick this off. So my name is Kim Moy. I'm one of the organizers of UX+Data. When I'm not here doing this, I am a senior design manager at Capital One. I also have two co-organizers who help me do this. Bill Prickett is one of them. Bill, do you want to just say hi? You can see him there. Bill has his own post-production company, Prickett Media, and Bill's the one who helps us record all the events and edits them together. So hopefully you can rewatch the event or share them with your friends. Definitely go check out some of the videos of our past events to see his great work, or go check them out on YouTube. Matt is our other co-organizer. Matt's the VP of Product at Development Guild. It's a great consulting firm for nonprofit organizations. Next, I want to take a minute to thank our sponsor, General Assembly, who's been with us for quite a while before we were doing these events virtually, and they've generously stuck with us even into the virtual world, and they're providing us the ability to host all of you on Zoom. So I'm going to pass it over to Angela just for a minute to share a bit about them.
Thank you so much, Kim. And Kim is correct. We've been in partnership for over a year and a half now and absolutely missing everybody in person. But for the meantime, we're really thankful to be able to connect online. So very quickly, my name is Angela. I work on the marketing team for the General Assembly New York City campus. And for those of you who are not familiar with us, we are a global tech and business school. And our biggest goal is to help close the global skills gap for anyone who's trying to grow within their career, or maybe they're transitioning. And essentially, we offer free events like this where you get lots of insights and also get to connect with experts. And also on top of it, we do offer part-time, full-time courses and one-off workshops and boot camps. So we have everything under the sun of data, marketing, career development, business, coding, design. Seriously, we have it all. And on top of it, we are on our third conference series of the year called Tech Week, which I'll drop a link under in our chat so y'all can go ahead and check it out. There's so much going on. I'm actually hosting a tech behind dating apps panel tomorrow, which is interesting. But yeah, that's essentially what GA is about. We're a huge community of lifelong learners. So if you are interested in learning more, I'll share my LinkedIn with you in the chat, but I'll also be helping out with the chat behind the scenes. So if y'all have any questions, I'll be here to support you as well. Back to you, Kim.
Thank you so much, Angela. We're really grateful for your support. So that covers all our housekeeping. So we're going to move on to the main event. I'm going to introduce our speaker. Claudio Baptista is a design leader with over 20 years of experience and extensive knowledge of user experience, product design, and creative strategy. Claudio is currently the director of UX at GoPro, where he drives the user experience vision and digital transformation of the direct-to-consumer strategy. Prior to joining GoPro, Claudio was heading the UX design team for the Walt Disney Studios. So welcome, Claudio. I'll hand it off to you.
Hi, thank you so much. Thank you, Kim, for having me. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Bill, Angela, Matt, everyone that organized this amazing event, and everyone that's on virtual here, just sitting in. Much appreciated the audience, and hopefully you guys have some great questions. Today we're going to be talking about the age of hyper-personalization and impact on UX. So this is a very interesting topic, something that I work very closely with, which is data. And so this is the cross between data and UX, and how UX from research perspective, generative data and evaluative data actually works very closely with kind of analytics and what's when things are live. So we're gonna dive into that. And again, happy to answer any questions by the end of the talk here. So a little bit about myself. I think Kim did a great introduction. I gave her a bio, which is pretty much the same bio that you guys see right now. So I'm a design leader. I've been in the field for a while. I'm from Brazil originally, and I was in Brazil in marketing and digital and design for quite a few years before I moved to the United States. Had my long journey moving between global agencies to startups to open my own design shop. Ended up kind of 7 years ago at Disney, with my former leader, kind of launching the UX program for the Walt Disney Studios. Became a principal designer, then became a senior manager, kind of led the team for a while. And recently I was able to join GoPro by the end of the last year. I think it was end of November, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm fairly new to GoPro, but it's not fairly new to design and digital as of a whole. So that's kind of me. I can drop my LinkedIn, or you guys can find me online. Just feel free to connect, and I'll love to connect with you guys, everyone that's listening. So today we're going to be pretty much scratching the surface. Unfortunately, we don't have enough time to really do a deep dive in some of these topics, but I wanted to prepare this talk in something that's relevant. It's something that I've been working on lately. And we're going to go through a few things here. We're going to go through, just look at some current stats, where we are as this kind of in COVID, post-COVID stuff, and how that affects the digital experience. We're going to look some marketplaces, stats, and again, because this talk is a little bit driven towards commerce on the digital, and we want to make sure that you guys get a picture of that. And we're going to be talking to value and purpose type of customers. We're going to drive into hyper-personalization, what that means, what CDPs are, CDXPs are, and again, very briefly, and kind of the role of UX in all this mess. We're going to be looking at like how UX actually can make a better interaction with the marketing, analytics, CI, all these other departments that are involved, IT, technology, engineering. They are involved in making those decisions of what kind of tech stack, what kind of platforms to support this holistic data approach that we're moving forward. And finally, we're going to wrap with like ethical approach to data, which is a dear topic to my heart. And it's like, how can we keep our consumers and our customers and our users trust? And it's all about trust, and how we can provide value and don't step the boundaries, especially for all the crazy sources of data that we have access these days. So that's that. So setting the stage here, let's just look where we are in terms of world right now, right? So try to gather some stats. They're not too old, so you guys can have an idea. This is nothing new, but maybe new for some of you. I don't know, but we can go through this. But I'll breeze through this. But primarily, as we expect, or as you heard, because of COVID, right? Globally, we had this big, gigantic boom on e-commerce. This is a great study from eMarketer. There's other studies out there that we are predicting a growth of acceleration in growth from 5 to 10 years, and just happened in 3 months. This was the height of COVID, which was like May to July, I guess, last year. And it really, because everyone was locked down, as you can imagine and know, everyone had to go online. So from a behavior perspective, my grandpa had to understand how digital works and had to figure out how to do his ways through the online sphere. So again, not only Gen Z and millennials pushing that trend, there's a lot of, everyone had to move online. I think it's a behavior that's it's inevitable. We won't go back to pre-COVID time. I think just really accelerate. You might debate about going back to a retailing experience and the social interaction in live when you go outside, but it's from expectations from a user's perspective, we are not point that this just pushed the boundaries quite much. So this is where we are right now, and these are the things that we need to deal with. I want to bring this slide in, especially to talk about this, like how marketplace play a big part on commerce and what's happening nowadays. So half of the global e-commerce sales occur to marketplaces, and these are the big players out there: the Amazons, the Taobaos, the JD.coms, the eBay. So these are major players, and again, they are massive marketplaces selling at tons of categories. Nearly $2 trillion were spent on these 100 marketplaces that dominate the world. So the question here is, if transactions are happening on these places, what is left for retailing and brands they are trying to sell on the D2C strategy, direct consumers, right? So I think like how the strategy between the marketplaces, all the combination between these multiple ways to shop, and we're going to be talking a little bit about that. But one thing that we come out of this slide here, it is like, look, the level of service is in such a high, like Amazon ships on the next day, right? They already have your credit card on file. You can buy things in one click. So how regular retailing that trying to go direct can compete with that level of service, right? Without all the infrastructure and the operations and the fulfillment and all the delivery and shipping that this major marketplaces are offering. So what is left for these brands? And we're going to be looking into that a little bit. But primarily, just to tease a little bit on that, it is engagement. I think a lot of the marketplaces here, what's lacking from them, it is the engagement down the road, right? It's the continuity after the sale. Again, you can go to Amazon, you find the best price, you need to ship by tomorrow, you get it. But then what's left? And that's the question that we're trying to answer here from a lot of brands on the retailing space, on the e-commerce. So just keep in mind, this is a force to be reckoned with. You can't fight against, but you have to strategize how your marketing, your experience needs to be holistically to account for these touch points. So we're going to go more into that, but primarily looking at ways to personalize the experience on your properties to be able to create a relationship with the customer and the engagement. Because again, the transactional marketplaces will never get to that level. They won't give you that for your brand. So super interesting. This is a topic on itself. Yeah, if you guys really love to discuss this, going through the midst of this, was in the midst of this with Disney and the shopping experience in some areas, and carrying on to GoPro, something similar. So here, this is another study that's a great study, is how the 2020 consumers driving change and what's the behavior online. So I touched that everyone is online. We know that, the marketplace play a big part. But what's really interesting about this trend is we're seeing this split between value-driven consumers. Value means financially, I'm looking for price. I'm shopping with my wallet, versus the purpose-driven people that needs a deeper level of connection, that you want to buy from a company that speaks to your values and it's sustainable, whatever you believe in, that speaks the same language as you. So it goes to a deeper level of relationship. Brand affinity is major on that side. But you really if the products are competing on the same level and pricing is not the major difference, people are willing to pay more to give their money to a company that is aligning to their values, and that could be any values that you align yourself with. But there is this split, and I think Gen X is really pushing the boundaries there to social responsibility, sustainability, and companies that are really sticking to their values and bringing that to the forefront of their experience. Again, the transactional piece, the price is always going to be there, the promos, the sales, and all that. So a lot of people are just looking for a price. If the product is the same, they're going to get a better price. That's obvious. But there are people that are willing to pay more money for companies that reward them, that understand them, that speak the same language, and they can have a relationship with. And I think Apple is a great example of this type of companies. When you get to the ecosystem, you're just there, and it's hard to get out. It's painful. So if you're in the Apple ecosystem, don't try to get out. It's super painful to reset your whole thing. So, but there's more to that. People are willing to stand in line hours and hours to get an iPhone every year, and there's more to that than just the transactional piece. And finally is this, all these things together are coming together really to create new behaviors on the marketplace. It's really pushing this level of service to a level of expectations from our users that we haven't seen before. The type of service that the consumers expect nowadays, it is unbeatable. Like it's like we really getting to that point that it's almost like a VIP service, the personalization level that we're going to be talking to later today, getting to a one-to-one type of relationship. So it's really getting to this omni-channel approach as well from brands and their experience, not only from a marketing campaign perspective and the brand be consistent across all the touch points that we've been talking about this for years, but also service, also user experience, how your touch points now are connected and you're interacting with one thing, which is the company, which is the brand. Customers don't care if you're designing. So there's a saying that I love to repeat to my team, which is do not design for channels, design for your customers, design for your users, right? Design for the people. Don't design for channels. So like how you structure your organization, how teams are cut in a way or another. It's really difficult because a lot of these companies were built in silos and teams, separate teams designed for different channels, different experience. But again, the brand is one. How can we respect the difference, but at the same time align and learn from each other as much as we can? So I think that the key thing on the slide here, it is, yeah, the expectations from consumers are in a level that we never seen before. So let's talk a little bit about hyper personalization and CDPs and CDXPs. I don't know if everyone that's listening to this talk is familiar with any of this, or again, there's some people that might be listening and say this is old news. Some people might say this is evolving quite rapidly. And some others might say, I never heard of this. What the heck is this? So we'll try to get a little kind of like theoric about, like give you a little bit of what this might be. But again, because of timing, we won't be able to dive super deep. And I'll try to bring some tangible examples from my past experience to try to illustrate a bit what the things are and how they can actually work on a company, how we think these things manifest on a day-to-day basis. So yeah, personalization, it's not about sales. It's about building a relationship with the customer. And that's, I think back in the day, and you guys have seen snippets of personalization, right? And I love this tweet, which I don't know if it's real or not, but I just love it. I just got it. And yeah, the Spotify's know me so well that I would marry. Like, so that's the level of curation and personalization, really understanding of your habits and behaviors that's going on right now. So, and again, before, I think to go back a little bit, it was really about, okay, put your first name on an email subject line, or give these little snippets of, oh, we get to know you a little bit. It never got to that level that we are dealing now, and with the amount of data that we're dealing now. So it's really interesting to see how technology will evolve to support that, and how people are going to be dealing with this in all levels of the organization, not only the UX team, but also the marketing teams and the technology teams, product teams. How do they have to really understand what this is, the boundaries, and to create meaningful experience. So again, I thought I'd brush it off on a little bit of like traditional personalization, things that were being done prior and the level that we were a few years ago. And that was, okay, we are collecting first party data, usually was personal data that you're signing up to and giving to a property, your demographics, where you live and all that, and transactional data, things that you purchase or not. So yeah, this approach was more like the traditional personalization route, was making assumptions about you and what you like and how you, and trying to predict in a very guessing way what you want to do next and what recommendations to offer and all that. That's been what's happening for years. But more and more over the years, as you guys know, with social media and other ways to triangulate data, just the pipeline of data between first party, which is all your properties, right? Like your websites, your apps, whatever products, IoT, whatever you're touching, you are giving up data somehow. You are consenting, you are signing off the box on the terms of use, and somehow you are giving companies data. And hyper-personalization takes to a whole new level, which it's literally leverages AI because the volume of data is so massive, right? So we need to plug in machine learning and create algorithms to read that. You guys are familiar with YouTube Recs and Instagram feed curation, even Google search results being personalized based on where you are, and to actually UI work that the pages have been personalized just for your experience. So, but it's really taking predictive analytics, augmented analytics, artificial intelligence, and real-time data to be able to drive curation of products and services. So that's what hyper-personalization is. And what it does, it looks at this broad scope of data, right? We look at personal, demographic, transactional, behavioral, engagement data. And again, we're looking at not only first-party data, but also second and third-party type of data, like stuff that you're doing on the web, stuff that you're doing on social media that's always triangulated and feeds this pipeline of data. Back in the day, a lot of these data pipelines were, again, managed by technology, but they were managed in silos. And we'll talk a little bit about that. And I think that now we're starting to see more and more of this integration and kind of transforms on the data that you're creating a single unified layer. But before we get to that, let's talk about a little bit about kind of like this personalization, hyper-personalization framework, right? So we define what hyper-personalization is in a very, very broad level, very high level. This is deep, everyone. this is very deep. But we have kind of like a framework that's kind of similar if you look at the UX kind of process that which is kind of the same. We went through discovery, we went to an analysis, kind of a strategic kind of definition phase. We map out personas and targets and audience and archetypes and all of that. We kind of journey mapping, what are the touch points, and we kind of create designs that we might think work or might not, and we create versions of the designs. And we want to do some testing to work with user research and usability studies to see the efficiency of the design and the efficacy of the design. So, and then we go back and we do the thing like, so this is not new, but personalization follows a similar pattern in terms. They have these buckets of activities. In the majority of the time, they are sequential, but they can be done in isolation. And again, they are across the main thing here, they are not a UX only driven approach. This is a cross-functional between multiple folks in the organization doing this. But for example, when I was doing this a little bit at Disney, we had a team of marketing, we have market researchers, we used to have consumer business intelligence on this. We used to have CRM participating. We used to have technology, used to have product, used to have UX. So you have like a cross-functional team coming from different points of view to define these outcomes and behaviors. These are going to be the strategic goals of your company, and what do you want the users to do, and what would be the ideal journey. We're going to be working the segmentation of audience, and I think AI plays a big part on that, because again, if you're dealing with a gigantic amount of data, assuming that your properties are live and you can collect all the analytics, right? How can we look at segmentation of your audience through that lenses? Not proxy personas or any of that, but we're really looking at real data to paint kind of what are the folks that are in experience your services. And you define the target journeys. Again, UX have a big role there in not only helping to define as a participant, but also be able to lead some of these sections with these cross-functional teams, right? UX we are very equipped in that unique way to do things the other disciplines cannot do, especially represent some of this alignment in visuals and mapping and artifacts that can align a whole team. So UX really played that kind of crucial role. And develop a modular design system. I think most of you guys here on this call, if you're the UX field or design or UI design, interaction design, any of that, you probably heard of like design systems but having a modular design system that not only accounts for the component level, but also for a modular approach of the UI as a whole, page level design, as well as template variations, right? and a lot of A/B testing can be done there. Personalization really takes place on the UI layer. So and finally, we analyze and measure and optimize. This is live. This is kind of feeding back to the machine with real-time data. So that's what's really cool about this. You're actually collecting all this data on the real time, and you actually feeding and building the UI almost dynamically and automatically and programmatically based on behaviors observed, validated, and you're creating this unique experience. So that's and we are seeing that play out more and more in the field, which is the dynamic nature of UI and generative design. It's a really cool field to get into. Yeah, this is what you guys are seeing here is exactly this. This is the mess that we got ourselves into from not only a UX perspective, but from a technology standpoint. We had so many players in this space of machine learning, data, AI, providing services that are similar or very close to each other with few differentiations. But it is, and I bring this slide in, one to show the complexity of what this means. Like, how can you choose what's the right provider to build the tech stack that you need to support hyper personalization, but also to the technology is one of the major components. We talk about the strategic piece of hyper personalization, right? Defining the journeys, getting the segmentation, understanding the user outcome and behaviors that we're looking for as a company, understanding the user needs, going to that research level. But we talk about the data that's coming from all over the place, and you're being bombarded by it. And we really need technology to play a big part on making this work. There's nothing that will happen without a solid tech stack that will support everything that goes after that, right? All the decision making. So the three main components are strategy, technology, and data. And from a technology perspective, just on the data space alone, we are dealing with this massive amount of companies and players out there. Maybe most of you, some of you might work in this company that you see on the slide right now. But yeah, it's a very tough RFQ process and RFQ process to kind of vet providers. It's very complicated, but UX also has a role in that. So let's talk a little bit about, so this is kind of the picture I just painted, which is, okay, we have like, what is hyper-personalization, right? What's the level of data that we need to hyper-personalize the kind of the tech stack that we're dealing with, like the craziness that's out there. Well, let's look at the consumer data platforms. What are CDPs, how they came about it, what do they do, and how it's a critical piece of software. That's what it does. And again, the customer data platforms were introduced back in the day, like I think it was 2003 or 4, started becoming a buzzword out there. And everyone wanted this holy grail solution to kind of aggregate all your data and look at, so there's tons of different software that can do something similar to a CDP in a different way. And this graphic shows, well, there's customer relations CRM systems, there are data management platforms, personalization engines. There's more to this. There's tons of other systems that look at data and are dealing with data that a company is receiving. But really, CDP came about from a demand of improved customer experience and omni-channel marketing initiatives. That's what CDP were for. So they would look at like all these other systems, they were kind of producing data in silos. So the CRM, you're getting all the data from a relationship management system with your customers from a communication, promotional standpoint. But again, all that was sitting on a database there. DMPs were another type of database that you had all the types of data. So I think the holy grail from a marketing perspective initially was to, how can you combine these things? How can you get one piece of software that can look at all these data silos and bring it all together and tell us who are the customers? And CDP was trying to solve for that. So offering this unique, unified view of the customer, and that you can gather through all these sources of data will create this very comprehensive segmentation of your audience. And that can go to a macro level, right? Like very high level behaviors, all the way to a micro level to, okay, I know someone by the name, I know exactly what they do, and I can potentially cater my experience to be a one-to-one relationship. So they primarily what they did was CDPs evolved quite fast. It took a while to be adopted, but again, I think to extend to third-party data, single first-party data was kind of a key piece of technology to be in place to be able to really power the omni-channel initiatives that we see nowadays. So CDPs, so this just to give you an idea of what else is out there. There's more technology that does this, but the CDPs really came together as this kind of holy grail kind of solutions. And again, I will tell you more what it does in this crazy graph here. So primarily just to illustrate how this works in a very high level, right? You have all this source of data that you as a consumer is interacting with a business. So you have this first step of a CDP is that data collection. So the data gathering phase. So again, it looks for all these types of data here, personal and demographics, behavioral data, engagement, transactional. Again, goes a little bit beyond the traditional personalizations. Primarily looking for more stuff, collecting more stuff. And what is doing is feeding into this layer of a data integration and assigning these unique IDs by customers. So they create a profile, they're gonna triangulate all this data, they're gonna be able to assign unique IDs, and they're gonna be able to kind of map on a very micro level. So you're gonna be able to see literally individuals at that point if you want to, because the PII you won't, but there's a lot that can paint a really good picture about your behavior. And that goes up, this kind of middle bucket here goes from unifying the profiles, creating the deduping, like removing duplications of data, and really kind of painting that picture of the profile until you get to this customer segmentation that start bucketing you. And again, the business is feeding that segmentation, right? We tell the CDP, look, these are the customers, these are the behaviors that we're looking at. Can you segment the profiles into these buckets? And again, a lot of that can happen through AI, but we generate through the CDP. We did a lot of different use cases that we want to feed the CDP and writing use cases for the CDP. And this top layer here on the middle bucket of the CDP is predictive analytics. It's almost your insights and recommendations. That's not a mandatory piece of a CDP if your company ever interested in getting CDP. I don't work for any CDP, by the way. I'm just explaining how this works, but it's if you ever get to that level there, predictive analytics can be added on usually as an add-on. You pay a part for the piece, but again, you can have AI through the segmentation, through assigning profile, the duping. There's a lot of that there, but you can start getting smart recommendations, the optimization rules, journey and analytics. You can get a lot of that stuff on the top layers of the CDP. And then finally, when the things are ready, the profile then sent to this data orchestration layer. And it can be used by any activation channel there. So you can use this data now on the email web that can help you drive those experiences. And this is the traditional CDP. It's pretty much this piece of software that deals with data, aggregates on a nutshell, segments, potentially recommends, and allow you to use that data in a tangible way through your channels of acquisition or service or products or retail. You can do all the kind of fun stuff. But this is really cool because what happens there, you have this unified view of the customer. So I can triangulate between any channel and I always know who I'm dealing with. So this is what powers the buzzword of omni-channel UX, omni-channel retail. It's really understanding where you are in the journey, but all the data is coming from the same source. This slide here, we're talking a little bit about what is the CDXP. So this is a combination between the CDP that I just mentioned with Experience Cloud platforms. And it's pretty much a boosted kind of augmented version of the CDP because it's really pairing up these other buckets here, which is AI-driven marketing automations If your marketing team is running campaigns that they want automation across the board, again, looks at the same data created from the CDP, but can tap into creative work as well as the user experience optimization. That's what gets really interesting for UXers. Because again, you can drive individual experience through your apps, through your websites, through products, based on your customer profiles and how a modular design system can support that. So it's really the CDXPs, some companies do that well, but it's really getting to that level that allows automation of design and generative design down the road. Again, there's a lot to unpack here, everyone, so I won't go too deep here, but just to give you kind of brush idea of where we were. Like, for example, at Disney, we were not looking into the marketing and the user experience optimization. We're just the step number one for most companies is try to the data layer aggregation and starting with a CDP to get at least your data normalized and be tangible to use in use cases. So this is a little bit more advanced. A lot of platforms, they promise all this stuff. Honestly, I'm not super familiar with the implementation, but there are teams that are looking into this stuff. And it might be a future that we'll be looking at, that all your experience down the road is automated by this real-time data. So that's that. And I know this is brief. I'm breezing through, unfortunately, because again, this is a meaty topic, but there's a lot to talk about on this stuff. But let's talk a little bit about the role of UX, right? What is the impact? I've been hinting you guys throughout this journey that there's some impact on UX. There's all this stuff that's happening behind the scenes. And personalization strategies and hyper-personalization strategies are typically design failures, like when they fail. And let's dive a little bit deeper into that here. So there's some preconditions to design a successful personalization program. Some are here, I'm not going to read through this, but having these things in place really help. This is the kind of the foundational pieces that will allow you to have personalization in the first place. You have to have all this stuff. But really what we're looking at, so I'll give you a little time to read this. I'm not going to dive too deep into this, but this is kind of like preconditions. But how UX can be a part of this, and how UX can it's impacted by this, and how can we add value to this whole thing? And again, there's several activities that you guys already are dealing with personalization to some level or to some degree, or you guys already doing something similar for your design process. So again, being able to work with marketing and working cross-functional and be able to get yourself out of your design bubble and be able to integrate with some other teams to understand who is defining this, right? Again, you're looking at the experience at this level more holistically. So ability to working with them to define goals and objectives. And again, you can come from a participant perspective if you have that door open, or you can come in as a, look, I want to help facilitate, I want to be on the conversation, I want to hear how these things that you guys are planning here will affect us down the road on the UX side and on design side. So there are a few ways that you can get yourself involved. And again, a lot of my time, and I'm going to keep bringing some use cases at Disney because fortunately I cannot get deeper into the GoPro situation that I'm in. But I'll just say that we are going through this right now, some of this stuff that I'm talking about, but I cannot give you specifics. But yeah, Disney, for example, a lot of the UX entryway to this world was by invitation to perform or lead design thinking and activities that will help us map the strategy all the way to how we can support the strategy with tactical design down the road. So there were a few ways that we could get involved. And I would say, don't be shy. This is most likely will impact you down the road if you're working in retail or commerce. So yeah, get yourself into that. But again, these are just some use cases that the designers can get. I think very key ones here, and new to me even, was assisting marketing IT and really writing use cases for personalization. That was new to me a few years back, and I was like, okay, how are we going to be able to do that? What does that mean? And kind of getting myself acquainted to use cases for driving technology, it was mind blowing. Again, designing dynamic modular components. Most of you might have a design system to some degree. Define user data models, aligning personalizations with core content strategy. That's a key one. Content plays a huge part of this. So being able to align these moments of personalizations throughout. And I think the number 9 here is kind of key, which is really being the voice of the customer in terms of personalization ethics and that trust aspect that I mentioned. So, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. And again, this is coming, this is ongoing, this is evolving. Technology is getting better and better by the minute. The data sources are getting bigger and bigger. We're getting more so I think somehow, I don't know where you guys coming from, honestly, but it's you might be impacted by this, right? Impacted by our personalization strategies or hyper personalization, or really dealing with data that's not only our UX research practice, be dealing with more and more data and analytics and all of that's coming live from these feeds. So I would say, I think the key thing here, it's really look at design the way we always look at design. Design is a strategic service as well as a tactical service, right? We push pixels as well as we sit on tables to define what is the experience and kind of what do we want to get out of here. How can we accomplish the business goals through strategy? So more and more design plays this kind of dual role. And with hyper personalization, it is on the same ballpark. We can influence both sides. We're definitely going to be designing the experience and all that. But more importantly, how can we part of the creation of the experience truly from a business strategic goals perspective and really influence the company? And again, some of you might not get to that level of maybe the company that you're in. You are fully blocked from getting to those layers of discussion and decisions. But I would say get yourself talking to people and feel comfortable in cross-functional across the board and get yourself out of the bubble of just design. Start putting your business thinking hat and start having those conversations. Because again, somehow that will impact down the road the UX and experience of your customers. So I think that's inevitable. It's coming. It's getting bigger. It's getting more advanced. So I would say, get into it. I think the last thing that I want to mention here is this super important track, right? And we've been talking about this is growing. I've been talking about how the thing is growing and more data, complexity, aggregation, personalization, machine learning, all of these things that we can do to understand you better. But I think the question here is, what is the boundary? When enough is enough? And I think as designers, I think that goes back to the 9, like the bullet like that I had there, number 9, which say, be the voice of the ethical, humane approach to data. I think it's easy to look at this stuff and forget that it's people on the other side. And I just love this, I think it's a tweet as well, which is, they thinking are creepy. It's really, it really can get deep and get creepy. These recommendation engines can go crazy. The algorithms can go out of control. We see some really great, there was a case that like kids were watching YouTube videos and there was this crazy, I don't know if you guys heard that, the Peppa video. I have kids, so that's why I bring that up. The kids were watching YouTube Peppa videos, like Peppa Pig videos, and then there was a whole sinister part of the Peppa video telling kids to harm themselves. And YouTube couldn't flag it because it's like, it was wrapped into this stuff. And so it's getting really tricky, this stuff to mesh programmatically, only through data, right? So human intervention is key to make sure that we are, yes, we want to better relationships with a brand. We want to be understood. We want our brands to be more contextual about their approach in marketing and experience. We want value. That's what we want as consumers. But because of this data and the massive amounts and the kind of like the automatic approach to analysis and implementation, things can get out of hand. So I think the question here that we have to ask ourselves is is what data getting, when is enough is enough? Are we crossing any boundaries? Are we breaking the trust with our consumers? And again, there's no easy fix for this. I think the best recommendation that I have is rely on first party data that was consented give to the company by people that are looking for value, and make sure that what you're giving in return is valuable. Because as soon as you start breaking that trust, it's really hard to recover. People really will leave unless you are one of a kind that does one product that nobody can find. But then people leave because again, this can get creepy, can get intrusive, and there are privacy laws and countries and governments working to kind of regulate some of this because it's kind of wild west the way we are getting data. So we are getting better in regulations, but at the same time, companies can really abuse that kind of power. So I think goes to a lot of the discussions that are happening nowadays with other areas of data gathering and privacy laws that you guys probably are aware of. So I think that's it. I think we are kind of almost on time. So, and I'm kind of like my throat is dry. So I'm going to stop and leave time for questions.
Thank you, Claudia. I think that is great. And there's actually, just in the last point you were making, a good segue into one of the first questions we have from Monica, who asked, how do we delicately balance personalization and personal privacy as CCPA and GDPR is making life difficult in this arena? So you kind of mentioned, some of those laws, but how do you balance those things?
Yes, I think it's always. I think there is this trend, right, for personalization, but you have to be very aware. Of course, there are the regulations that are in place, but I think the best thing there is be upfront. What are you giving back for the data that you're asking consumers to do, right? So if I'm asking to give me some data, what I'm giving you back, and be super explicit about it, and rely on first party data. That would be my advice, because again, those when the transaction is fair, I'm giving you data, you give me value. I'm okay in giving you data if you give me value. So, and it's understood by both parties. I think it's all good because you're both getting into a relationship. But whenever you're collecting data through any means that was not fully consented or the users didn't truly understand, and I say that through like sneaky tactics that you can do through terms of use or the famous check this box here and you agree with all this stuff that you don't even ever going to read, that gets really tricky because again, consumers won't go through that work of reading this stuff, and by the end of the day, they're bombarded with stuff they didn't expect. So I think it's a work in progress. I think regulations will, again, it's difficult to bypass them, and you might get in trouble, but they're there for good. Because again, people tend to abuse this stuff, so no bueno.
Yeah. So Nell asks, historically, how do you understand the formation/rationalization of the data silos prior to CDPs?
Well, I think a lot of the organizations, they were looking at specific channels or touch points, right? So teams, the way companies structure themselves, and I'm saying all companies, of course, but a lot of companies, they structure themselves looking at a touch point and a channel, looking at a product level, a technology level, right? And unfortunately, once we start interacting with these channels, more and more you're creating these data silos. And again, I'm working like at Disney, for example, used to have this data lake, which all these individual touch points and silos were dumping data into this lake. But again, it was sitting there and nobody could normalize or use it. There was no tangible, there were no service layers on top of that, like the CDP can offer or something like that at the time. So it was almost, but yeah, I think companies before they were looking, there was a different way to look at relationships with the customers. And they will look at channel specific and not omni-channel, that your brand is a unique thing gravitating between a sphere of touch points. So I think things are changing, and I think that's why technology is being evolved to match the demand of that integration. Don't have an answer why people did this way, but I think that's my guess.
Yeah, that makes sense. We have another participant who says, when moving from a traditional framework to a hyper-personalized one, where do you recommend we start? And how do you decide the personas to start with, since we can't design for every segment?
Yes, that's a great question, and something that, yeah, this is a tough one. So I think the best way that we've been trying to map that is based on the behaviors that we want to see with our customers. So we want to look at the customer and say, okay, we have a journey, right, from our services that our companies provide, and that journey hopefully supports some of user needs, or you're trying to solve a problem, and what are the services that you're providing, and be able to map how the engagement journey maps out. You can start looking at this key transaction, and I say transaction, but that's a bad word. It's key pivotal milestones on that journey that you need to start to understand, okay, we are getting to this point and there's a drop-off rate. So how can we move this segment to the next level? And you start looking at these segments as behaviors. And from there, you can start high-level segmenting your audience. And from there, you might start seeing micro behaviors that you can start triggering down. And again, when you get that to programmatically, to real-time data and to generative design, you might get into a way to kind of modify your content, completely perform a full optimization of a landing page or website page that's driven by those behaviors and the micro segments. So you're not designing every single variation, but you design a system that supports real-time change and fluidity to account for that variation through data.
Got it. Makes sense. Marcella asks, which is the sweet spot between hyper-personalization and discovery? And how can we avoid echo chambers and biases with hyper-personalized experiences?
Yeah, that's also a good question. I think there's not an easy answer for that one either. I think there's no easy answer.
They're all tough questions here. And you have no easy answers.
Where's Matt? I need Matt. So I think it's to avoid this. So I think the integration between, I think the company really needs to be prepared. I think one thing on the research side and analytics-driven segmentation, personalization, all we're talking about here, I think they complement each other. I think there are two sides of the coin that they can be the generative research to get to the point that you can actually design for, that you're informed enough to make some good decisions there. Can come to supplement the analytics, what's getting back, and one feeds of each other. So it's crucial to not have the silos, but I think the silos can happen because how companies might be organized. And that goes back to my point that there's no easy way to get this working. It's not an easy fix, but it is getting out of your bubble and really try to push this cross-functional, we are one team, let's align. And again, sometimes it's rough, depending on your level on the company, you might not even be possible to have this conversation. But you can always float it up and start kind of beating the drum, right? Because again, that will have an impact on your side. I think I don't know if I answered the question at all.
Yeah, so I mean, I think following on that, when you're going after a hyper-personalized segment, if there's a group that may not be within there, are you ever thinking about others who you might want to go after who have not yet been included in that group?
Yeah, most likely, yes. And again, segmentation doesn't happen. You're not going to get the micro segments automatically, right? Mm-hmm. You always start from this kind of like grandiose state of bigger behaviors, right? So that's where you're kind of segmenting a big chunk of your audience to the top, much like we drive personas, right? We're looking at behavior, motivations, needs, pain points, and try to paint the big picture to research. It's kind of the same. I think what it does is behavior driven by data will allow you to get to those micro levels. So most likely research won't get to the micro level without the personalization, without that level of data to get really micro. But I think the alignment will happen on the macro level. But if you don't have it, maybe it is invalidated behavior that research, and I don't think you should work with both. That's my point. I think that should be a somewhat integration synergy. If you're seeing one to data that doesn't show up on research, there may be something wrong with the data, or maybe something wrong with the research. So they need to work together. It's the same thing that we're talking about. One is generative, we're doing generative research to learn. The other one is actual behavior that's happening through unless you want something that's very innovative, that is a product that hasn't been launched yet, that you won't have the analytical piece to kind of inform what the research might be.
Yeah. So we have a couple of questions that I'll represent in this one from Elizabeth, and I don't know if you can answer this, but how is hyper-personalization impacting the work for the UX team at GoPro?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so I'm like, yeah, I cannot tell you the specifics of how it's impacting. I wish I could. Hit me up on an individual basis. Maybe we can have a chat, but it is impacting because, again, there's a lot. I think this impacts everyone that's working on direct consumer strategies. And again, my team at GoPro works with that. I think I have a team of people that sits on research CI meetings. They're looking very close to analytics. And I think it is crucial to be involved. So yes, the thing is forefront of our design approach, because again, we need to build a system that will support this kind of experience if one day we get to truly 100% automation and personalization of experience. So we need from a design standpoint, set the boundaries, and we need to be involved in that discussion. All I can see from GoPro, it's like we're early stages of that as well. So it's something that's happening now, but it's I cannot tell you specifically what we're doing.
So we have a person who says, I'm at a media company and we're in the process of implementing a CDP. So we have a lot of upcoming opportunity for personalization. What would you say are some of the most important things to think about or watch out for when a company, either generally or in media specifically, is just starting on this journey?
I think the main thing is, yeah, it's tough because it involves a very large amount of people in different teams. I think there are different agendas when we're talking about a CDP and what kind of data, what kind of things that we need to get out of that. I think also what is crucial here is to point the CDP is not like a silver magic bullet that will solve all your problems. It's just an aggregation data software. So that's what it does. It helps you to segment, created a automated way to deal with this high volume of data that otherwise you wouldn't be able to. But I don't think it's I think that the main one is I think, yes, there's working with technology, work with marketing, because usually CDPs are owned by marketing for marketing campaigns. But again, impact UX in a heavy way. So I think there's that, to be able to, yeah, I think there might be different agendas that you just might want to be aware. And be aware it is technology, it's a software. And again, it's a part of your tech stack. So CDP alone won't help a lot. There's a lot to do after that. So yeah, so just be aware of that. It's not a one size fits all, or it's going to be this magic bullet that will solve everyone's problem.
So Melissa asks, what's some examples of brands you know who are leading the pack with hyper-personalization?
Oh, definitely Amazon is there. Spotify is doing a great job as well. Yeah, there's a tons of companies like, yeah, they're on the retailing space. Let me think of one that it's really good at that. I think Bonobos, Nike was doing a bit of the hype. I don't know if any retailing space, especially from like fashion or consumer electronics, maybe Apple is doing a good job in getting there. Google and all the huge players like Google through YouTube and all this. Just think about recommendation engines and stuff that you're getting that's super personalized to your viewing pleasure. All of that, they're already deep into that layer. But I think what comes to mind is a retailing kind of marketplace that's really leading the charts is Amazon. The way that you like the level of service that they got out of there, the unification of an omni kind of channel approach, even with their stores that they have now, the physical retailing, grocery stores and all that, how you can go seamless check your phone and do that kind of stuff. They have that unified view of a customer. So I think they are really, really deep into that front. But there's tons of companies are starting or kind of trying to get a way around or just getting deeper and deeper. But yeah, I can think of Amazon and Spotify. They do a great job in that.
Yeah. So Sasha asks, isn't the most ethical way of getting data from a user to pay them for it? Do you know of any UX successes that pay users micropayments for their data?
Yeah, there's a lot of rewards programs. There's not a micropayment for data. I don't know, but yeah, it's just subscription, right? A lot of companies are dabbing into the subscription space, and they are providing services and some kind of engagement, and they are collecting data, and you are consenting to that. So you are on the kind of, I don't know if it's a micropayment, but you're in a regular cadence of engagement. So your data is being flowing through that pipeline. There's also rewards program for credit cards and all of that. Yeah, I don't know if there's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot of programs to try to collect the data. Like I have one that's who asked this question? Sorry. Oh, can you give me a name?
I think it was Sasha.
Okay, Sasha. Oh, Sasha. There was one that there's a specific program that we work at Disney called Disney. I thought it was someone else. It was a Disney movie rewards. And again, a lot of what we wanted to do there, and again, very high level, so I'm not saying anything that's super compromising here. It was create a rewards program that was meaningful for the user, right? And very respectful of their data, but was to quizzes, to events, to a multitude of things that the user is giving you data and telling you more about their habits, telling you more about what the kids like to do, how many times they went to the parks, or how many times they went to the cruise line, and how many times they went to a hotel, and what movies did they watch, and what did they download, and all of that. So we're working through this kind of like access and rewards program to give them value for the data. So that's legit. That's like you giving something value, you building something with that data. That's not only marketing and trying to bombard you with spams and sales. So you're giving services back. So I think that's a good way to go. There's probably other ways you can pay users for the data, but yeah, I think rewards programs, subscription programs, anything that gives you engagement will give you data. Not scrolling to an Instagram feed, they're collecting data, but that's not necessarily super consent. Yeah, it doesn't give you too many. Yeah, maybe give you value from my individual perspective, I guess. And spend your time scrolling to a feed.
Yeah. So Jason says, great presentation. Is there any way we can see some examples of the specific types of data these platforms are collecting?
Yeah, absolutely. You can Google them. I'm sorry. I think you can. CDPs are out there. So there's tons of CDPs, and you can definitely, there's some use cases online when you were, I don't know if you're just want curious or you're in the process of evaluating technology and tech stack. But if you are in the process, I would say, yeah, you would do pretty much a RFQ or FTP process. You would write a use cases. You would give them what you want to see, and they would prove that they can do it and what kind of type of data that they was looking. But if you want to look at more like in a broader scope, I would say, yeah, you can just look it up. What CDPs? There's some really Exponia. I think that's a really good one because they are dabbing into the consumer data, the customer data plus experience platform. That CDXP that I spoke about it. So they are doing. So they have some use case there on their side that shows kind of what kind of transactional data, demographic data, behavior that they look for, and how you can set up these feeds. They are coming from different, how the integration layer works. So I think you can get more specific. I honestly don't know. I know, but I don't know. But I cannot give you specifics about anything that I know. But this is out there.
And I'll end on this question. How have you seen different teams measure for creepy personalizations?
Oh, that's a great question. I would love to see more of that. but I think it's really measured by when you get a lawsuit from someone, or when the government tried to shut you down because of your shady practice on dealing with data. So if you're getting yourself into that situation, yeah, find another job, because you're probably not doing an ethical way. But yeah, I haven't seen teams being measured, and that's why UX played a huge role, right? Because again, I think what the key message here, it is easy to go outside of our boundaries, and because again, it's powerful, the level that you can get, and you can see your conversions going up, and you can see, oh, we test A/B tested this stuff, and we really get this when we try to be more personal. But again, it's easy to look at the numbers that you have to hit and say, okay, we can go there. But I haven't seen from an organization perspective, like teams being evaluated by the, but what I'm seeing a lot is everyone is kind of aware that it exists, and everyone is trying to do the right thing. I don't think people intentionally or maliciously, or at least the companies that I work for, really using the data in a sneaky way. But I would say, yeah, it's just easy because you have to vet those data sources. You have to be able to, they need to be legit, and then you can use it if you're providing value. But if not, I would say, what's the point? And then revisit the personalization strategy.
Well, thank you so much, Claudio, for being here tonight. This was fun. It was a great talk. I also wanted to just give you an opportunity. Are you hiring?
I have a product designer role on the team now. I'm kind of rebooting the team at GoPro a little bit because I just got there, and I can tell more if anyone wants to apply for it. But it's yes, I have a contract role. It potentially become a full-time down the road, but it's a contract to start, and I'm looking for a product designer. The job description, I don't know, it's out there. So I'll send to you.
If you send it to me, I will, include it in the list that we will send out to our members.
I'll
so
thank you. Do that.
Thank you very much, Claudio. And thank you all for being here tonight. I wanted to share with you that our next event will be on just a few more weeks from now, on Tuesday, March 16th at 7 p.m. We will be back here with Building an Industry Leading Insights Engine at Twitter. Last fall, Twitter's research department changed its name from user research to experience research because they wanted to communicate that they don't study users, but rather that they seek to deeply understand real people in the moment of usage, as well as nuances and complexities of lived experiences. Research should be the insights engine that helps make customer centricity quite there yet. The journey has required focus, planning, collaboration, creativity, and grit. And Nakia of Twitter's research team will share lessons learned along the way. So we hope to see you in a few weeks. And other than that, have a great night. I will post the link to the event in the chat, and you can sign up there. And so I hope you all enjoyed the evening, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you so much, everyone. Yeah. Thank you. Bye.